Jean-Sylvain Perrig, welcome on UBP TV. You state that there is a sectorial rotation. Can you explain why?
Yes, since the beginning of March, we see a lot of pressure on growth stocks, so the stocks which are growing the fastest within the economy. And that's where you find most of the stocks we like in the digitization theme. So suddenly, investors were questioning the valuations of these companies. Therefore, a lot of money came out of these stocks. We had a sell-off and went into more defensive sectors like the healthcare, the energy sector, or utilities. That's why the main indexes, stock indexes, held up pretty well. Despite the huge correction we had on growth stocks, probably most of the underperformance is already behind us because it went very fast, but it could continue for a while. So we reduce a bit our emphasis on these growth stocks, even if the trend is structural and at one point the outperformance will resume. The question is when.
Earnings growth was moderate in the first quarter. In spite of this, do you remain bullish on equities?
Yes, it's true that since the beginning of the year, earnings growth was pretty disappointing, especially in Europe. Most of the companies missed earnings expectations. In the US, since the beginning of the year, we are lowering earnings estimates, but most of the companies are able to beat these lowered estimates. For the rest of the year, it seems that we can still expect a reacceleration of earnings growth in the US and we hope as well in Europe, which should allow the markets to go a little bit higher. And we have to remember ourselves that central banks are still conducting non-conventional monetary policies, especially the Fed, even if the tapering is on track. But the global environment remains therefore positive in liquidity terms for equities.
Jean-Sylvain, contrary to what was expected, emerging markets have performed well. Where can value be found in this asset class?
It's true that emerging markets are doing quite well, especially the equity stock markets, since the end of March. Most or many investors were either short or underweight in these countries. So with the rally we currently have, valuation gap have come down significantly. That's why we're not recommending adding up to existing positions on emerging markets equities. But on the fixed income markets, we are adding up a little bit to our positions. We see that the strong reaction of many central banks in emerging countries, so they raise rates to protect their currency, is having an impact. And therefore, it's a bit more positive for flows and for in terms of governance. Therefore, we are adding up a little bit to our existing positions with a positive expected return for the rest of the year.
What about the bank's asset allocation?
Our asset allocation remains broadly unchanged, with the exception of that small move out of cash into emerging external debt. The reason is we continue to think that global economic growth remains on track for the time being. We have no reason to put that in doubt, but that would be a risk. We're going to monitor the situation very closely if growth should slow down. China is a question mark. They are changing their business model, tackling pollution and corruption. At the same time, they have very weak financial sector. So it is challenging, but we don't expect any systemic risk for the time being coming out of China. And finally, the geopolitical risk is always a risk, but we don't expect and we hope that the situation in Ukraine will not get worse. Therefore, we remain confident for the near future.
Jean-Sylvain Perrig, thank you very much.
Thank you to you.